Somebody once said, "We are family. I got all my sisters with me." And that somebody lied. Because in the words of Jennifer Williams, it's not feeling very much like a sisterhood. And I would like to talk about it. Today's episode is all about family. Because y'all swear up and down that just because they blood, that we gotta fuck with them. And I'm ready to not only fuck y'all up for instilling that in society, but deprogram all that fuck shit and reveal the key players that have heavily influenced this gorgeous human being that I am today. Because before there was Aubrey, there was Sky. So, let's start there. Keep my foot in your throat, ain't no written to go. Let's start there. Keep my foot in your throat, ain't no written to go. Let's start there. Keep my foot in your throat, ain't no written to go. Let's start there. Keep my foot in your throat, ain't no written to go. I in the blue of your sight in the plan. I in the greatest chest, I in the man. Most of it, most hated part of the brand. If you ain't nothing, I'll say it again. Keep my foot in your throat, ain't no written to go. Let's start there. Keep my foot in your throat, ain't no written to go. Family is supposed to be our safe place. Very often, it's the place where we find the deepest heartache. Ian Vincent. So when it comes to like families, I feel like we could really go on and on and on. Like we could really go on and talk about this topic. Like there's so many fucking different families that have been so influential, not only like within the world and pop culture, black media. Like I feel like there's just so many people that we could fucking cover, but I'd be remiss if we did not fucking start with covering the Kardashians, like the most hated, the most notorious family of them all. For whatever reason, every time the Kardashians are on screen, y'all fucking get y'all panties rounded to a bunch. Like, I just will never understand it. It's like y'all truly hate the Kardashians. Now, if you don't know who the Kardashians are, like, let's say you living under a fucking rock, or maybe for background details, bitch, I don't fucking know. But if you don't know who the Kardashians are, basically they are this famous, what are they, white, Italian, Peru, they something. I know they white, but not really white. They like they something, right? But you have Robert Kardashian that used to be a lawyer, right? And then he married Kris Jenner. They broke up, and then Kris, I believe, got with Caitlyn Jenner, who used to be Bob Jenner. What the fuck? What was his name? He used to be something. Used to be Bruce. Okay, and then then you got Kim Kardashian, who had the little sex tape. Okay, that made the family quote unquote famous with Ray J. And then you got Khloe, who is really OJ's daughter. Like, it's a lot that's going on with that family, but as much as we could really sit here and shit talk them, okay, this ain't the one about the Kardashians, but as much as we could really sit here and shit talk them, I don't want to do that because to me, they are like the number one most notorious family I've ever seen, at least in my lifetime. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know a lot of people hate them. I know a lot of people hate the way that they move. I know a lot of people hate the way that, they do certain things and they take from like, listen, maybe we do need to do one about Kardashians, okay? Because a lot of shit that y'all believe in and that y'all practice and y'all preach, it's fucking bullshit. It's illusions, and I just will never fucking understand it. Like, there's a difference between appreciation and appropriation. And I feel like, yeah, there are times where, okay, it could be appropriating, but it teeters on appreciation. And given how impactful the Kardashians are, a lot of the times when they are doing certain things, even if it's appropriation for them, it does create some sort of culture. And I don't know why, as Black people, we feel like we have to gatekeep that word, culture. But the Kardashians are very notorious for creating culture or create pop culture at the very fucking least, right? So even if it stems from Black culture and it's starting off as appropriation, there are some things that do generally end up happening in a good way. But that's neither here nor there, because like I said, this is not the one about the Kardashians. It's more so about their family dynamic, right? Love them or hate them bitches stick together. You know what I'm saying? Love them or hate them bitches stick together. And if you ask anybody in black culture, it's like, oh, that's all the Kardashians do is they take a piece of black culture, they find a black man, they chew him the fuck out, and then they spit him back out into the world, and then they produce another reality show, produce another season from that, and da 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 da. Okay, listen, I'm not here to argue y'all down about that. Again, we can do that in a separate episode, but you have to admit that their family dynamic and the way that they truly stick together is remarkable. And I feel like low key, that's one of the reasons that black culture is so bothered by them. Again, I'm not here to negate their controversies, at least not on this episode. But if we're going to be fucking honest, we don't know many families like the Kardashians. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't know families that stick together. A lot of us have grown up in single parent households, you know. A lot of us have toxic family members. Like, it's so many different ways that we could look at it. And I'm not saying that these are things that are just exclusive to what was I about to say? BIPOC. Like, this is not exclusive to like black or queer or people of like. But what I'm saying is a lot of us don't know what that looks like. We've never really had that type of family dynamic. And so when you watch somebody like a Kim go through controversy, and then all the sisters are there for her, even though they could have just been fighting 2 episodes ago. And then you have Kris Jenner, the mom, that is, you know, always there to turn a scandal around. And like, when you really sit and break this shit down, it's fucking remarkable. It's fucking impressive. And you're really like, wow. Like, it really makes you think of, like, seriously, like, if you just ever just sat and thought, again, controversies aside, put your trauma and bullshit to the side, put your feelings about the Kardashians, put all of that shit to the side, and literally just look at how they move as a family, how they move as a unit. That's something that a lot of us have not been able to identify with. Me, certainly, I know I have not been able to identify with that. And just, you know, again, seeing that, you know, on television, seeing that in the media, I think it's a beautiful fucking thing. I do. Again, like with black culture, we grew up watching these sitcoms and things like that. But if it wasn't like, you know, the Huxtables, or I know for me, like the Parkers, that was one of my, you know, favorite shows that I would watch, where the dynamic just between Nikki and Kim was every fucking thing. It was every fucking thing. You know, like it reminded me so much of like my relationship kind of like with my mother, except like when we were good. You know what I'm saying? Which we'll get into, you know, further into this episode or whatever. Jumping ahead a little bit, you know, I tend to do that because listen, bitch, listen, we just starting out. I'm not used to just talking through, like, get ready with me style. I'm not used to this shit yet. So we just gonna jump all over the motherfucking place, okay? But still try to have some bit of structure. But when you look at the Kardashians, they represent family, right? When you look at people like the Kardashians, they represent family. When you look at people like the Smiths, they represent some type of family, right? Now, granted, when it comes to Will and Jada, they have like a lot of controversies, like, you know, it has been rumored for fucking years that, you know, Will and Jada had an open marriage and they were sleeping around and this, that, and the third. And, you know, then it didn't help that over the years, you know, Willow became a singer and Jada was, you know, acting in movies and shit. So, you know, at first we thought it was cute, but then as they started getting teenagers and, you know, people started calling the family weird and their choices and actions weird. And then a couple of years ago when August came out, that just made shit like entanglements, and it put the world in a fucking frenzy. So by the time Will Smith got onto that stage and smacked the shit out of Jada, which that should be a podcast episode on its own. But by the time Will had got onto that stage and smacked Jada, it was like everybody was just so confused because we had this image that we had upheld of the Smiths, and we're like, oh my God, but they're this perfect family and they have the perfect marriage, and right? And even though the Smiths turned out to be a much more controversial, well, more of like a different controversial, you know, compared to Kardashians, right? And even though, again, we never really know what's truly going on behind people's closed doors, we upheld this image of the Smiths, especially, you know, being black. We have this image of the Smiths that we held in our minds. And so when we saw anything less than that, it fucked with us. It fucked with us, right? And like I've told y'all, this podcast is all about trauma and how there's trauma in everything. And just even being bothered by the Smiths not upholding this image, this idea of them that we've created within our minds. That comes from somewhere. That comes from somewhere. But hold on to that, right? So, speaking of, Black families specifically and Black dynamics, we didn't really have someone to cling to. Hence why for me, it's like, oh, the Kardashians, and hence why for a lot of Black culture, it's like, oh, the Smiths, right? Now, when you have somebody as controversial as the Kardashians, or you have, I guess you could say equally as controversial, the Smiths, it's like, okay, then you might want to start looking towards, fan fiction, right? You might want to start looking at TV shows or movies. And then, even once we started talking sitcoms, it's like, who were the best families, right? And for me, my wife and kids. My wife and kids. I feel like there is no better family dynamic than my wife and kids. Like, I love me some Nikki and Kim Parker. Love me some them hands down. Even though they were problematic, love me some them hands down because that's one of my favorite shows. But so was my wife and kids. And that to me was just chef's kiss. Because not only was the show funny as fuck, and every single character held their own. That's another thing too. They just embodied a family, a family dynamic. You had the husband, right? Traditional, well, depending on who you ask, but traditional roles, traditional family, right? Traditional suburban family. You had the husband that would go to work and provide, right? And then you had the mother who, decided to have, the 3 kids and a picket fence and, had gained a lot of weight and decided to give up on her dreams to support her man and her family. And then eventually is trying to go back, right? Then you have the 3 kids. You got the older son, who seems to be, more of like an athlete, more of like well, all the kids were slow, honestly. The only kid that wasn't slow was Katie. And that's because, her boyfriend Franklin. Okay, but, because I was going to say Junior was kind of slow, because Junior was definitely slow. But Junior and, what was her name? Chloe? Claire. Yeah, Junior and Claire, they were both slow. Okay, I don't know what went wrong with the genes with them, but they were both fucking slow. But my point is that you had this suburban family that was literally the idea of what a family was supposed to look like, I guess, or supposed to embody, like when it comes to like American values and American dreams. Like, that's why I say it wasn't really necessarily like a Black thing. Yes, it was a Black family and technically a Black sitcom, but it wasn't stereotypically what I've seen. It wasn't anything of what I've witnessed. If anything, it was more so of what has always been preached to me through TV shows and sitcoms and movies or in school about what an American family looks like, right? You have the provider, you have the nurturer, you have, the 3 kids, and you make sure that, you have at least one boy, that's the oldest, then you have one girl, and then maybe, another boy and girl or twins or a dog, or, you get your little white picket fence in your little, nice suburban area. And then, that's the American dream, right? Like, that is what has been shoved down our throats for so long. Right? Pretty much all of my life. Like, I can't speak for y'all, but pretty much all of my life, that was what was shoved down my throat. That was the American dream. A husband, a wife, a nurturer, a provider, 3 kids, a dog, and a white picket fence. That was the American dream. That was your American family. That's another reason why I kind of appreciated the Parkers and looking at Nikki and Kim's relationship, because that was a different type of family. That was a different type of family that I wasn't used to, a different type of family dynamic, right? Because for those that's not familiar with the Parkers, you have, first of all, it was a spinoff of Moesha, which was problematic on its own. Okay, Moesha was very problematic. Listen, the one about sitcoms, we can argue all day, bitch, okay? But when it came to the Parkers, not only was it a funny ass show, but it related so much to Black culture. You know what I mean? Because you had this single mother who, once again, it's almost like this running kind of gag, this running kind of theme, not only with Black women, but just in America, period, where the woman has to give up something, or, it's like, we, as humans, we wear our pain as a badge of honor, and you guys really need to unpack that. And by the end of this episode, you're going to see why it's so fucking problematic, okay? But again, here's another situation where you have this woman who is deciding, okay, I have this decision. I want motherhood. I want to become a mother. So I'm just going to give up my dreams in order to make sure that I not only birth this child, but I'm able to raise this child, which is extremely fucking problematic. And we'll get to that, but it's extremely fucking problematic. And I'm totally against shit like that. But at the time, I'm a little kid. I don't know any better. This is all I know. And so I'm saying, oh my God, okay, ooh, a mother and a kid. And then the show was funny as fuck. And then, too, a lot of Kim and Nikki's relationship reminded me of me and my mother's, right? Like, they argued the same way that we did. They got along the same way that we did. They was damn near the same fucking person, but so opposite, so polar opposite. It was just like, it just reminded me of my relationship with my mother, right? But it was almost like escapism for me, where it was like, oh, this is what it could be. You know what I mean? Like, when it's good, it's good. And even when it's bad, here's a lighter version of the terror that you're actually experiencing. If I pretend that the terror that I'm experiencing is actually this lighthearted shit that I'm seeing on TV, maybe that'll make me feel better about our relationship. Maybe that'll make me feel better about our dynamic. And again, the show was funny as fuck. So, it was still one of my favorite fucking shows. But again, compared to everything else, compared to the Smiths, the Kardashians, My Wife and Kids with Michael and Jay, that whole family dynamic between, just a single mother and their child, that was different. That was different. And it definitely spoke to me, right? Now, growing up, there are memories that I do have. There are memories that I have. Like, there were good times. A lot of bad. But there were good. There were some good. My family took a lot of vacations. A lot of vacations. Like, we were the type to vacation every single year. And what we would do is that we would not take because every family is different, right? Some families don't even have the luxury of traveling. And so no matter how broke we were, no matter how bad things got, that is one thing that I can say that I appreciate about my family, is that we always made sure to do something. You know what I'm saying? Because, and I'm such a firm believer of that. I'm such a firm believer of, you work hard, you go through enough shit in life. At some point, you have to reward yourself. You know what I'm saying? You have to. You have to. And thank God for the fucking vacations that we took, because the terror that would often occur within my family, like, who knows how much worse it could have been had there not been those moments of reflection and whatnot, right? But I do appreciate the fact that we took a lot of vacations, and we took vacations every single year. And usually it would be like this one main big ass vacation that we would take for about a week or two at the end of August. It was always the end of August. And we did that for two reasons. We did that, one, because it was my cousin's birthday around that time. Okay. And two, also because that is when school was starting back up, and my mother was a teacher. And then obviously you have the kids going back to school, and it's just like, you do whatever you're going to do all summer long. Usually my mother was working summer school throughout the year. Not throughout the year, but throughout the summer year. And so it was just like, okay, we all got to go back to school in September anyways. So, why not go on vacation? And then that way, we could come back refreshed, had that little couple of days in between. And then boom, it kind of made sense. That's the way that they worked it out, right? And so we would take a vacation. Every single year, we would always go on a cruise, And so when people ask me, like, have you been in this place? Have you been in that place? And it's just like, I feel like I've been everywhere. As far as the Caribbean, I've pretty much been everywhere, because when you cruise, I don't know if y'all know how this works, but when you cruise, when you go on a cruise ship, because we're going to talk about the one about cruising and then the one about gay cruise. Listen, we're not going to jump the gun. But we're talking about cruise ships, right? When we're talking about cruise ships, you're talking about getting on a boat for however many days, right? We would usually try to do no less than 5, no more than 13, 14, right? Like 7 to 13 was like our safe spot, right? And so you get in this boat and everything's all inclusive, unlimited food, unlimited drinks, as far as soft drinks, right? some cruise ships, they offer a package where you could get unlimited alcohol, or like they have like different, like, things like different perks and whatnot, right? But the main point is, unlimited food, unlimited soft beverages. You're on this boat locked in with a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of amenities, spas, pools, clubs, casinos, and yeah, you're just at sea for however many days, and then you have your like couple of days at sea in between each port day. And port days are basically when you go to travel to different cities, different countries, different destinations, right? And so because we travel so frequently every single year, that's how I was able to rack up on, me travel. Like, I was doing it since I was born, you know what I mean? Like, that was just something that they already had going. I guess that's a tradition that my mother and my aunt had decided to do. And so, that's all I knew every summer. Like, okay, where we going? We're going to Jamaica and Aruba and Puerto Rico and DR. Like, there's nothing to be going to like 5 different countries every summer, right? Because cruising made it possible. Okay. So eventually, I want to say it had to be like shortly after my grandfather passed. That's when my grandmother started coming onto the cruise ships. And that definitely changed the dynamic. It was fun at first because, my grandmother wouldn't really travel with us. But then when you have to listen, my family was full of characters. Okay. So you just have to understand that just one person being there or one person not being there, that completely changes the dynamics of the trips. Okay. So, it went from being like, the older that I got and the more that I came into me, the vacations were still fun, but definitely, and we'll definitely dive deeper about this when I go into the one about cruise ships. Because like I've already stated multiple times, there's trauma in everything and there's a story in everything. And I can very specifically remember the year that I started making a lot of money on YouTube. I'll never forget it. It was August 2016. And I knew that we were going on a cruise ship, and I was like, wow, this is, mind you, I've been a self-entrepreneur all my life, and usually by the time it came time to go on vacations, I always had to quit my job early. Always had to, like, even if I had a summer job, I would have to let them know, like, hey, I'm going to be going, da 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 da. Or usually if I had money, it wasn't really much. It was just, like, maybe like $100, maybe like $200, da da da. August 2016, this was the first time that I had a shit ton of money. Like, a shit ton of money. Like, by this point, I'm popping on YouTube. Mind you, I had started YouTube October 2015. Started doing reviews on like January. Started doing story times on like March, April 2016. And by August 2016, I at least must have went on that cruise ship with like $3,000 to $5,000. You know what I'm saying? And again, I'm somebody that came from nothing. Okay, everything that I've gotten, I've worked my ass off for. Okay, I did not, like, when you want to talk about self-made right here. Okay, self-fucking made. And so this is the first, vacation, let alone cruise ship that I'm going on where I don't have to worry about a thing. Are you fucking kidding me? What? Get it all. Get it all. I want it all. Opulence. I deserve everything, right? Because while vacationing was fun, because we always made it work, my family was very cheap. Very cheap. Very cheap. And so earlier when I was mentioning how I appreciate the fact that, yes, okay, you work all year long. Yes, you deserve a vacation. You take one. I appreciate that. But again, they're very frugal and very cheap. And for me, I'm somebody that, well, first of all, I'm a Taurus sun. Taurus sun, Capricorn rising, Taurus moon. Okay. Taurus moon, 3rd house. Taurus sun, 4th house. Okay. Capricorn rising, 1st house. Like, I am somebody who is very earthy, very material. Not really materialistic, but I like luxury. I like comfort. And it's things that I'm learning about myself now, because I'm not the Prada girl. I am not the go buy the labels and da 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 da. But if I want it, I'm gonna get it. And it's just that simple. If I want it, I'm gonna get it. It's just that simple. And see, here's where that caused problems with my family. Because, yeah, we would go on vacations and shit like that, but very frugal, very cheap. And even as an adult now, especially with this series, I'm sure you guys are going to see me unpacking and learning things literally as I'm talking and I'm saying it and I'm realizing like, oh shit, that's where that comes from. Because even right now in a second, I'm like, oh yeah, that's where my frugalness comes from. Because yeah, we would go on vacations. Yeah, we would go to Disney. Yeah, we would do this, that, and the third. But it was always very cheap. Always very, it wasn't like we on a cruise ship and we in a balcony, we in a top suite, we in a, no, it's, we taking the cheapest plane ticket, we getting the cheapest hotel room, we getting a da-da-da, like always like bottom of the barrel type shit. And I was about to give a disclaimer about that, but honestly, I don't give a fuck. If you broke and you can't afford, listen, baby, maybe someday you'll come up in life, okay? Listen, right now I'm broke and I can't afford. But I'm not gonna sugarcoat what shit was. Yeah, we have been grateful that we was on trips and shit. Okay, ain't nobody talking about gratitude right now. We're talking about the fact that when it came to vacations, when it came to a time of treating yourself, it was almost like, because now as an adult looking back at it, it's almost like, yes, go ahead and take some self-care or go ahead and take time out for you, but not too much. And you got to be careful with messaging. You have to be very careful with messaging because not only was that the situation that was going on, that is kind of what would be said, right? And so that's why when I finally got my YouTube off the ground and I had money and I could afford to, you know, like, because again, we're talking about cheapest room, cheapest da, 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 da. So yes, I had fun on vacations. Yes, I was very grateful. Yes, we're not talking about gratitude. We're not talking about happiness. We're not talking about fun. We're not talking about that. We're talking about somebody who just wants an even better experience. Nothing wrong with wanting that. Nothing wrong with wanting that. Nothing wrong with wanting to treat yourself, right? Nothing wrong with not wanting to pay out of your pocket for liquor when everybody else has a fucking liquor pass and you sitting here spending $300. Like, you know what I mean? Like, nothing wrong with that. And so by the time it came time for me to have money, on this one vacation, August in 2016, I was so excited. So fucking excited. Mind you, this is a family who... And as we get deeper into this episode, you'll understand. But this is a family who never really uplifted me or made me feel like anything or basically made me feel like shit, made me feel like a bum. So we're talking about my glow up year where I'm finally on top. I'm seeing the most money I've ever made. Mind you, I've been through 1,000 countless jobs and everybody's looking at me, when you gonna get a job? When you gonna da 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 da? Mind you, I have Scorpio in my 10th house, Pluto Scorpio at that. So it's like double Scorpio in my 10th house of career. So I'm very private about what I do. 10th house squares your 4th house of home. So you know, you're very private about home and public life and all of that. And so it's not like I was very vocal about what I was doing. They knew that I was doing some online work. They had seen maybe some hair videos, but they didn't know I was rolling in money like that. So by time vacation comes around and they're doing their usual cheap shit, I'm a tourist. I like my comfort. So, let me see the cheap tickets that we got. Yeah, can y'all go ahead and upgrade the first class? Can y'all go ahead and like, you know what I'm saying? And it wasn't on no boss type shit. It wasn't on no to make any. If anybody was gonna make anybody feel bad, it should have been me making everybody feel bad because the way that up until that point and even after that point, I was called a bum all my life or made to feel like a bum, made to feel like a monster, made to feel like I was never gonna be shit. So listen, when I finally got a fucking bag and we on vacation, you're damn right I'm not just accepting any fucking thing. Okay, yeah. You might have paid for me to come and okay, that's cute. Matter of fact, I think I even paid that year. I think I might have even had to pay because it was like, no, you got it. But I say all of that to say, with this being the first year where I finally had money, my experiences were a little bit different because I wanted to elevate my vacation experience. You know what I'm saying? I feel like an adult now. I feel like I'm not just here because of mommy. I'm here because I got it. I'm here and I can buy a bottle without having to ask my mother for it or worrying if that's going to happen to her budget for the weekend. Like I had it. And so I was going to get it by any means. And the jealousy started. The envy started. It's crazy how y'all sit and y'all preach about how blood is thicker than water, but then these are the first motherfuckers that talk shit about you when you come up. You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't like I like at that time, to me, it was a very big deal that I was coming up and making $6,000 a month, but
when you have a billionaire mindset, when you already have in your mind, like, yeah, I'm cute on YouTube right now, but the goal is to travel the world, be an international pop star. I'm trying to be a billionaire. I'm looking at this shit as chum change, even if it is the most that I've ever made in my life. Like, I'm looking at it like that. But see, when you start becoming envious of your own family members, especially the one who you've made to feel like a bum, said wasn't never going to be shit. Said wasn't going to have anything in life. Said was always going to be stuck at their mother's place. And when you, of course, I'm going to live my life and experience greatness as much as I can that week. And that got under some people in my family's skin. One in particular, definitely my mother, who was also begging me for money the entire week. And I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it because I'm not someone who, and this is why I've gotten fucked over in a lot of friendships. Hashtag the one about friendships. Okay. Because I'm not somebody who, like I said, is materialistic. Like, I'm very earthy. Yes. I have a lot of earth energy. Yes. But Taurus sun, Taurus moon, fourth house, like I'm more about sentimental value and like, I don't place value into money. Like that's not what makes me happy. What makes me happy is what that money can do. Meaning like the experiences that come out of that. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't about being in the highest balcony and buying out the bar for everybody, da da da. But even if I did, bitch, it would be less about the money and more about the memories that's being created. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not somebody who is very stingy. I will give you my last dollar and the fucking pennies that I see on the floor. That's how I am. And again, we have to think about 2016 where this is a time where I'm still very caught up in the thick of it. Tried to move out already, didn't work. Now I'm popping, and now, I had just bought a car, so I'm in the thick of, paying a car note. Yeah, I had just bought a car, which is neither here or there, because I don't want to stay too stuck on this one subject when we have so many more to cover. But I had just bought a car, and so, I'm feeling like an adult. I'm feeling like da-da-da-da-da. But at the same time, if you need it, I got it. Just ask. And so it wasn't just a matter of asking. It was like, okay, you asked, and I'm like, okay, cool. Let me wait for, because we don't get paid until like the 21st. So if we on vacation from like the 16th to like the 25th, whatever I have from the 16th to the 21st, that's coming from the month before or whatever money I made outside of getting paid, because we only get paid monthly. So I believe it was something to that effect of, listen, I don't mind helping you out. I don't mind giving you some money, even though you only asking me because, okay, whatever, right? That's your mother. Okay, whatever. I don't mind helping you out, but at the same time, relax. Because the person you said who ain't never going to be shit do not get paid until the 21st. Okay? And the 21st falls on the weekend. So now that means I got to wait till the 23rd. So just relax. Don't hound me for it. I'll give it to you when I give it to you. Okay, I already said yeah. And it ain't something that I owed you. It's just something that, I was going to do out of kindness of my heart. But it was little things like that. And then after I give the money, I'm having fun on the rest of the vacation. And then, I'll just never forget. Because this was the year that we had went to Puerto Rico. Well, we flew to Puerto Rico. So this was a very big deal because my mother was afraid of heights. So, this is the first time she caught a plane. And we flew to Puerto Rico and we caught the cruise out of there. And I'll just never forget how envious my family was and how it was probably at least like 10, 12, 15 of us. I don't remember. It was a lot of us. And I never forget how my mother and my aunt made sure that everybody's flights and shit were booked. Except mine's. And here's the thing. I like to drink a lot. And my family loves to gossip and nag a lot. And so while vacations would be fun, especially the older that I got, we would do adult things, meaning me and the younger kids. We would do adult things like drink, club every night, drink all day, party all night. That's what the fuck we were doing. We would wake up late. And, the older that we got and the more that we would do that, that would annoy the older generations in the family. That would annoy my mother, my aunt. And so they would complain about shit like that. And so, needless to say, without going too deep, this was a vacation where I had gotten alcohol poisoning. Like, I had very bad, I had never gotten alcohol poisoning in my life. Like, I was a pro to drinking. I've been drinking since I was like 12. But this was the first time where I had ever gotten severe alcohol poisoning to the point of damn near death. And I did not want to make a big deal about it. Again, knowing how my family nags, I didn't want, and they had already been nagging all week. I did not want to make a big deal about it. And then at the same time, when you come from a toxic family that nags and is on you and all of that, you don't want to be around that energy, especially not with no fucking alcohol poisoning where you literally feel like you're about to die. So I'll never forget, we got off that cruise. And that morning, that last morning where it was time to get off the cruise and we got back to the dock, I realized something's not right. That's when I realized I have alcohol poisoning. So when we get to the hotel, mind you, again, my family's very cheap. It was a whole bunch of us, okay? You got me, my mother, you got my brother, my sister, my brother's girlfriend, my nephew, my aunt, my grandmother, my cousin. They got like 25 fucking kids. His baby mother. Like, it's a whole bunch of us. But what did I say earlier? Very cheap. So, of course, all of us is bunched up in one room, if not two. You think I want to deal with all of these motherfucking personalities after dealing with this whole fucking week and everything that you think the last fucking thing that I want to do is sit here with alcohol poisoning? Bitch, I don't even care if I had a fucking attitude. I don't care if it was a headache. Last thing I want to do is sit here with a fucking alcohol poisoning. Last thing I want to do is sit here with alcohol poisoning, up in a room with 10 motherfucking people, and you sitting here nagging. What's wrong? Why you in bed all day? What's wrong with you? Da-da-da-da. See, you drink too much. You're going to end up just like your father, a fucking alcoholic. That's the last motherfucking thing I want to do. So what did I do? I took my motherfucking money, gathered my coins together because, responsible me at the time. I love that for me. Responsible me at the time still had a little bit coin left over. And so I saw that they had booked a room, and I said, how much is a room, y'all? I went up to the front desk. I was like, how much is a room? Okay, let me book my own room because I can't. Y'all, no. Especially since I needed to sleep. Like, I had fucking alcohol poisoning. I could barely eat. Sprite was the only thing that really worked. Sprite was the only thing that really works, which I swear by. Sprite is a hangover cure, y'all. If y'all ever have hangovers, just drink a liter of Sprite. I promise y'all. Sprite was the only thing that fucking worked for me throughout the whole entire vacation. That's how I knew it would work for my alcohol poisoning, which I was surprised that it did because, listen, but when I say I was drunk 24/7 throughout that cruise, like I've never in my life to this day had it that bad. But yeah, I just needed a room to sleep, get over, da-da-da. And because of all of that, when it was time to check out the next morning, mind you, throughout the night, I'm calling to figure out, oh man, like what everybody about to eat and da 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 da. I don't know, big boss, you the boss, bitch, you got your own room, like very much all of that. And if you can't tell by now, the women in my family are very male identified and very much I hate other women type. Like, they don't realize it, but they are. You know what I mean? And even though I did not grow up as a woman, because obviously I didn't transition until 2019, I still have that energy, that feminine energy, right? And so it was all of that all night. What you mean, boss bitch? Like, what you mean? What you mean? You a boss? You got it? You'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. And so imagine my surprise when the next day I wake up and they like, yeah, everybody meeting downstairs at 12. We about to get into, the van or whatever. And we all going to get into the van. And they like, oh, so did you get your ticket back home? Like, da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, and they like, yeah, like you ain't got your transportation back to the airport. You ain't got your Patty. So because the black sheep of the family, the one that y'all call a bum, all of their life has came up and decided to turn a good vacation into an excellent, great vacation for themselves. Now y'all about to leave me stranded in Puerto Rico? Okay. Okay. And then there were theme parks. Theme parks were, for the most part, great. You know, that's another great memory that I have with my family. We started out going to theme parks when I was extremely young, like when I was a kid. Like even now, like as an adult, because I have Capricorn rising. So if you don't know much about Capricorn rising, basically Capricorn is like that strict parent, right? And so Capricorn risings, we typically grow up like super fast, like super fucking fast. Like, you know, it's the strong friend, it's the young adult, it's the one that's 12 but seems 28. Like, and you know, even though like we grow up fast and we're an adult as kids, the more that we become an adult, that's when our childhood comes out of us. And so what's crazy is as a child, I love theme parks and we were always at Six Flags, Great Adventure, Dorney Park, Disney, like always, right? And now as an adult, I really enjoy watching roller coaster videos. Like I really enjoy watching theme park. Like I'm such a fucking listen. I have my comfort zones. Again, I'm a tourist. I listen, and this is we're gonna get into it. This is probably gonna be long. This probably gonna be multiple parts because the way that now, I don't want to get too into it. I'll save it for later. But I'm gonna just say that I'm so appreciative of who I am now. I'm just appreciative. And so, you know, theme parks were so legendary and iconic for me growing up because I love going to them. You know, it started off where we would always go to Six Flags Great Adventure every year because my aunt was a police officer, and so her job would always be like doing like a police event, you know, every single year. And then that's how it started. Then we would go to, what do they call it, Halloween Fest, Fright Fest. We would do that. Every time we vacation, you know, we would usually stay in like Florida for a couple of days and then do the cruise ship thing from there. But we would stay in Florida for a few days so we could go to Disneyland and Universal theme parks and you know, Busch Gardens. Like, there was certain times of my childhood that were lit. You know what I'm saying? And that's the point of me explaining all of this now, because this pod isn't meant to be a trauma bonding podcast. It's meant to be a full spectrum. It's good and the bad, right? It's good and the bad. Like, I'm not here to completely shit on my family, but we're going to talk about real experiences, right? And, you know, a real experience was theme parks. It was something that my soul as a child, like I was not afraid to get on roller coasters at all. But you guys will find a lot more out about that with the one about theme parks. But that's definitely another one of my great memories that I had, you know, dealing with my family. You know, especially because too, like when we would go to Six Flags for my aunt's little police fair day, they always did like a police cookout, and the food was always like, I'll never forget. This is how you know I'm such a foodie. Come on, Taurus Fourth House. I'm such a fucking foodie, okay? Such a fucking fat ass, okay? Oh, stay tuned to the one about food next. But I can remember they had the best fucking hot dogs and the best nacho cheese melted sauce. And I remember because we would be under this tent, right? And crazy enough, this is where I actually had my first fucking drink, okay? Because it was right when I was 11 or 12. I'll never forget. My mother was drinking a Corona, and she could deny it to this day. But the Corona was sitting right in front of her, and she saw me grab it. And she acted like she didn't see me grab it because we was at a cop event, okay? Ain't nobody going to jail, okay? And I said that to her before. I said, bitch, you the reason why I'm an alky now. You are the reason. You gave me my first fucking drink. You may not have handed it to me, bitch, but you opened it. And you saw my hand touch it, and you ain't pop my hand. You ain't pop my hand. Well, she must have knew she was gonna get popped back. But I'm saying, you saw me reach for the drink, and you ain't do shit. Okay, so listen, this is our problem now. But that's one great memory I have about doing the theme park shit. And the hot dogs was fucking amazing. And then they had this nacho cheese, and I would always listen. And then another thing too, listen, again, my family was very fucking cheap. So when we go to the theme parks and shit like that, it's like, oh, bitch, we already got the KFC ready on deck. Fuck is you talking about? Okay, I'm from Jersey. So the Great Adventures at the time, they had like the little outlet malls or whatever. So if we want a Six Flags Great Adventure, bitch, we not getting nothing in there because ain't nobody got money for no turkey legs. Ain't nobody got, bitch, I am the turkey leg, right? Okay, we would show up with a bucket of chicken, hiding that shit in our fucking bras and boxes and shit, and show up with a case of what, like, my family did not play. Again, cheap, but we still had fun. You know what I'm saying? Still had fun, still made the most of the experience, but very fucking cheap, very frugal, very frugal. Yeah, definitely wasn't the type to do the carnival games and shit like that. Not the carnival games, not the food. Because their thing was, listen, bitch, y'all here to ride, so y'all here to act like y'all at a state fair. Because if that's the case, we could save a lot more money and not come to a theme park. We could wait for the fucking county fair to come. So if y'all gonna come here, get that ass onto a ride, or we could go. Especially since they didn't ride. Like, my family was characters. Okay? Moving it along. Moving it along. Family reunions. Family reunions was another memory of mine. Another memory of mine. Not really so much growing up necessarily. It's something that I kind of realized after, post me leaving my family. But I think more so for me too, because again, my family liked to travel a lot. So even though we only did like one big ass vacation, we would still travel a lot. And so, you know, there would be like little hidden pockets of years where we would have like a family reunion, like, you know, all of the young cousins decided to get together or some shit. And when I say young, bitch, I'm not talking about like people my age. I'm talking about people like my mother and my aunt age, like they're age people. And listen, y'all know how family reunions go. We don't know none of these motherfucking people, but oh, y'all say we family, so cousin, what's up? Okay, we all gonna wear the same shirt and eat a lot of food and maybe get drunk and dance for the day, for the weekend, right? But I don't really know y'all like that. But this is cute. This is cute, right? That type of vibe, because the kids don't know each other. We don't give a damn, and we don't give a damn about these old people. But all of these old people swear that they knew us and saw us take our first step. And oh, Lucille, I remember when you used to. Bitch, we don't know y'all. We just here for the food and here for the shenanigans, okay? And so that's really what it was for me when it came to family reunions. Like, I mean, it was exciting to see some. Like, honestly, I only knew about like 2 people. Honestly, like if we're talking people my age that I would get excited to see, yeah, I had 2 cousins that I would be excited to see. But other than that, we just like, okay. Cause see, here's the thing, Capricorn rising, again, I've always been in the doubt. I've always been super mature. I've always thought differently. You know what I'm saying? So even when I was 12 years old, I'm like, why the fuck do I give a fuck about motherfuckers who don't give a fuck about me 364 days out of the year? But on this 365th day, I'm now supposed to give a fuck because of the word family. That never made sense to me. Again, that's why I say whose ideas and values and traditions and who's instilling all of that into you? Because that whole American that and when it comes to black families and we got to stick together, that it never fucking made sense to me, you know? And so I would only really be happy about family reunions because it was more so of the fact that, like, okay, we're leaving Jersey, we're taking a trip on our favorite rocket ship, okay, going down south, road trip, okay, that means food on the road. The food in these areas used to be popping. Listen, that's a whole video. Woo, the one about food. The one about food on the road. Listen. Okay, because I was more so excited to go on family vacations and family road trips because that meant, okay, are we going to North Carolina? Are we going to Virginia? Because, you know, listen, niggas, they always live in nigga neighborhoods, okay? I was happy to go down there to go to places like Captain Mayflower, which was like the seafood buffet, or Captain George's, and you know, and like, I was excited for that shit, okay? And excited to be swimming in a pool since, you know, my aunt pick and choose every other year when she wanted a pool at whatever house she was at that time. You know, so it was shit like that I give a fuck about that. Other than that, I didn't give a fuck because I'm just like, I don't know y'all. The fun in it for me was, again, the food and just the traveling experience, period. But like, after this weekend, we not going to talk again. So it was like, whatever. You know what I'm saying? But again, that's what, when I go back to family, what does that look like for you? Like whose traditions and values and definition of family are you upholding? And I knew even at that young age that, yeah, just because you kin to me or just because we got the same bloodline don't mean I gotta fuck with you or respect you or even like you. You know what I'm saying? And not that I was disrespectful to anybody or anything like that. It just set the tone for me like, okay. Okay, we came from the same vagina at one point. Okay. What does that mean? So then you're moving on to like things like grocery shopping, right? That was another fond memory of mine's. And I guess I could tie this in with beauty supply and fish fry runs on Saturday. That was another favorite of mine when it came to my family. And this is more so of like in the latter years, because when I was a kid, obviously, my mother's going to take me wherever she goes, she's getting her hair done on Saturday. Okay, I'm going with her, da da da. Back then, it was more of like obviously an annoyance because I'm a kid and I just want to be at home watching cartoons. But when I got older, I realized how much I enjoyed things like that, right? As you start coming into yourself and, and I'm talking like post like 2016, 2017, like, just kind of starting to get little hinklings and inklings of who I might be, but not really even like, because honestly, I didn't truly understand who I was or why this shit meant so much to me rather until post leaving my family. But, I like to grocery shop. I like to go food shopping. And, that's how my family was. My family did errands a lot. You could always bet that every weekend there would be something that needed to be done. Whether my grandmother needed to go to the doctor, or, somebody had physical therapy, or somebody had this, somebody had that, somebody got a hair appointment, or, even after listen, because remember what I said, I was on YouTube, motherfuckers was envious with the money and the vacation and shit. And, try to put them on to crochet and hairstyles and all of that. No. Took them months, and then eventually they became hooked and probably still wearing the shit now. And so I say that to say that, for motherfuckers that told me I wasn't going to be shit, and I tried to put them on to natural hairstyles and shit. Because listen, I was rocking crochet and doing all of that shit in 2014, 2013, way before it became popular. Way before it became popular on YouTube, which is why, hell, the first video that I put out on YouTube was a crochet hairstyle, and that shit did like, I'm not even gonna gas it and say 1 million. I think it probably did like 500,000 views. But that shit had did crazy views because I showed people how to do crochet in a better, more natural looking way or whatever. And eventually, my mother and my aunt, they became addicted to doing natural hairstyles because they started going through I'll just say a hair journey of their own. This is crazy too. It's crazy. Because there's a lot of instances in which, and maybe we can talk about the one about humility where I can bring that back up. But there's even a lot of instances, like even if we go back to when I was talking about cruise vacationing. Because I remember how for every bad that they said or did, how God would come right in and either humble them or bless me. Because I was being facetious when I was talking about the plane tickets, but I do specifically remember how there was a moment where, I just knew like, okay, niggas is mad that I got money and I'm not dependent on you and I can actually live an adult vacation. And I remember very specifically, it was something very nasty said and done. And then everybody was like at the back of the plane. Mind you, I think this is like Spirit. And I remember very specifically how I go up to check in my ticket. And the lady at the gate basically says, hey, we have these amount of seats that's available up in, I don't know how the shit works. First class, economy, I don't know. I just know it was in the cheapest seats and it was up in the front of the plane. That's all I know. And a much better seat with much better, like, whatever. And, it ended up being available and they ended up giving it to me, So it's crazy how the whole humility thing works because even when it comes to the hair, as much shit as my family used to talk about my hair and me wearing big hair and why you doing this, that, and third, and da-da-da-da. y'all the same bitches who 2 years later was begging me for hairstyle tips, and I'm going to the beauty supply store to help show y'all what's in, what's popping. I'm doing y'all hair. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I'ma just say it, through age and other things. Now you have to depend on this shit, and now you have to depend on me. So it was just, I don't know, just me speaking right now just made me realize, moments in which, yeah, humility did end up coming around to bite that ass. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. But yeah, the beauty supply store runs we would do probably every other week. And then we would always go and get like fish next door to the beauty supply store and go grocery shopping and things like that. And I'm starting to get emotional. Way too early into this pod. But we would go grocery shopping, a lot. Especially towards like the latter part of my last year's being there. And I'm gonna go way deeper into that about why I needed to go to the grocery store every single day. But I found a lot of comfort in that. And, even with things like that, that was just another situation where what should be good memories for me, it's another situation where it's conflicted, where it's like, there's good and bad. Because it's like, I'm enjoying going to the grocery store and hearing, my mother and my aunt complain about prices and us trying to figure out because a lot of that shit I still do. Like, I do that now with my friend. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's just like a lot, like, it's crazy how like there's moments where it's good, but then at the same time it's bad. And you will definitely most understand what I mean by that in the next episode, the one about food. Like, specifically when it comes to grocery shopping, because I don't want to give everything away. But that was one thing. And then, we would run all our errands and do all of that every weekend. And then, if we weren't getting fish, then we were going to a restaurant, and that's something that we did since, a child. I thought I was living the life, bitch. Like, at Red Lobster every fucking weekend and Outback. And yeah, I grew up on that shit. Y'all bitches had McDonald's. I had Red Lobster. I had Fridays. I had Applebee's. I had every chain restaurant. And that's what we would do faithfully. Like, my family loved them some seafood. They loved them some Red Lobster, like, faithfully. Now, Olive Garden, they ain't really fuck with too much like that. But Red Lobster, oh yes. Yes, because my mother loved. Oh, let me get emotional. Oh my God, this is why it was so hard to fucking do this episode, because it's just like so much good, but then just the bad outweighs, and that's why this shit is so long, because I'm trying to give good to humanize these bitches. I'm trying to give some good to humanize these motherfuckers, okay? Because they are terrorists, okay? But it just sucks. It just sucks, because things that they probably think that I didn't even notice or care about, I still remember. Like, my grandmother loved Admiral Feast. She loved Admiral Feast, loved to get her. Actually, I don't even know if it was necessarily Admiral's Feast, because she loved fish, but I don't ever really remember her getting fish from Red Lobster. But she would always get shrimp. That was definitely her thing. The Admiral shrimp. I think that's what it's called. My aunt would bounce around, would try different things. So it's hard to necessarily kind of pinpoint one thing for her, because she would bounce around. I know that she loves an entire vinaigrette salad at Outback. I know that. When it came to my mother at Red Lobster, she would always create 3. And it would be steak, salmon, and scampi. That's what she was. No, she was on steak, shrimp, and steak, salmon, and fried shrimp at first. Then she started switching it up throughout the years and realized, okay, like, if I do a pasta and a steak and fried shrimp, like, it's a lot better, whatever. Just a whole bunch of random shit that I'm talking right now. But my point is that restaurants was our thing, especially since I was a little kid. Like, I remember me and my cousin would do this thing where we would go into our mother's phones and text each other. Like, so for instance, right, my cousin would go into my aunt's phone and text my mother, like, Hey, dinner tonight, and then I would go to my mother's phone. Mind you, my cousin is like 8 years older, but so he like 14 and I'm like 8 doing this shit. Like, but we was there with it because we wanted to go out, bitch. We wanted to fucking go out, and so. I would go through my mother's phone and be like, yeah, bitch, what you, well, not bitch, but yeah, what you want to do, da-da-da, and then he would like realize, da-da-da, and like, that actually worked a lot of the time, like, that worked, and I don't know how the fuck we would pull it off, like, it just worked, like, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like one of us would just take call, and then go hand the phone, like, I would call my aunt, and then hand my mother the phone, like, here, she on the phone, like, type shit, I don't know, but it worked a lot, and then eventually they caught on. And then eventually they stopped caring and would just be like, fuck it, let's do it anyways, whatever. And then as time went on, we stopped going out as much. It would probably be like 2 times a month as opposed to like once every weekend or whatever. And that definitely affected the downhill of the family, I want to say. That definitely contributed to the downhill of the family. Another thing was cooking. They started getting extremely lazy. Extremely lazy. My family hated cooking. Like and I grew up like eating their food. Like I love their fucking food. Like I love their food. Even though it was basic as fuck. But it was good. You know what I mean? Like it's just home cooked meals. And again, like now that I'm like 29 and coming into myself, now I realize like, oh shit, Taurus, fourth house. Like you love sentiment, the sentiment shit, and you love a home cooked meal. Now I get that. But for them, they would always complain ever since I was a kid that I gotta come home and I gotta cook and da-da-da. And it's just like, bitch, you a fucking parent. Shut the fuck up. This is what the fuck you supposed to do. Like, why are y'all complaining? Like, Like, it was one thing for my grandmother to cook and then stop cooking, with older age. But the way that my aunt and my mother would complain would just be ridiculous. It's like, y'all are the fucking matriarchs of the goddamn house. Like, it's understandable that you gotta be the man and the daddy. And that's cute. But y'all are the fucking head of it. Cook. The fuck. Cook. And so that ended very early on because they would start complaining early on. So, that's part of even how I started learning how to cook and just deciding to be like, okay, fuck it. Because I'm not going to sit around and starve because you want to sit and be fucking lazy. Like, bitch, I'm 12 and you mad at me because you don't want to fucking cook. And so obviously the older that I got, the more that had became like a staple where it's like, no, you grown, you old, y'all can do for yourselves and da-da-da-da. And that definitely affected holidays. Because, while holidays used to be like this big grand thing growing up, again, the older that we got, the older that they got, it was just like, no, why the fuck we cooking and da-da-da-da-da. And so, things that I used to love, like cookouts and us just throwing shit on the grill and that shit like that stopped. It just stopped because they got lazy. And so, when it came to holidays and shit like that, even that, like I said, it used to be like a big grand deal. And then it became like, okay, just get the mains out the way. And then of course they would always complain, but then do it anyways. But, it just was what it was. And so I wasn't somebody that was really, being that I wasn't really close to my family like that anyways, I wasn't really big on holidays. Like I've never been a holiday person ever. And, that's part of why too. You know what I mean? Like, because if y'all gonna sit and complain throughout the whole fucking holiday season about who you gotta buy presents for and, how much you gotta cook, like y'all take the fucking joy out of it. Like, the fuck? And it didn't help that my mother's birthday is, right at the end of November, usually around Black Friday, usually around Thanksgiving. It's just like, y'all suck all the joy out of Thanksgiving by complaining about cooking all day and shit like that. Then when the holiday fucking comes around, somehow, some way, all of that frustration and anger that everybody has ends up going towards me, and I'm always the laughing joke, the butt of the joke, the one at the fucking dinner table that everybody is picking on. And so it all, like, every holiday used to end up with me just, how people have Like there's these memes and shit every holiday where it's like, you have those cousins that you go out to smoke with and y'all go dip off. I am that cousin. It's me taking me outside to go dip off for my toxic family because I don't want to be the butt of the joke at the table. I don't want to have to sit at the table and defend myself. I don't want to have to, why don't you have a job? Why you ain't doing this? Oh, you could be doing that. Or when you going to, like, I don't. So it's me. I take me outside for a smoke. I go to the liquor store and go get me a fucking bottle and get as drunk as I can. And then as I started getting, I would say, fuck it. Okay, I'm here for the food. I got a bottle and I would go to New York. And that pissed them off even more. Because it's like, why the fuck are you not here? You're supposed to be here. You're supposed to be having family time. And it's like, why the fuck would I sit in here and have family time when y'all have been complaining all goddamn day and leading up to this shit? You know what I mean? So it's like holidays stop being fucking fun. Don't get me wrong. When I was a child, again, trying to humanize and add some balance, right? Don't get me wrong. As a kid, again, cheap, but if I wanted a PS3, okay, either I got it or my brother got it. But it was in the household. You know what I mean? So when it came to like gift giving and shit like that as a kid, I definitely got most of what I wanted. Not that I wanted much. I was an easy kid. Like I don't care about shit like that. But when it came to gifts and shit like that, eventually got it, yes. But again, it's everything that it takes to get there. And the more older that I turned, in the later years, I guess money started being hard, and it was less about gifts and more about I don't know. Let's move on. Let's move the fuck on. So we already talked about American family values, right? It's the white picket fence. It's the nurturer, the provider, the 3 kids, the oldest son, the older daughter, and then maybe another son and daughter, maybe a dog, maybe a cat, the white picket fence, nice little suburban family. That was my family. My family was dysfunctional as fuck. My family was toxic as fuck. But my family was all I knew. And so when it's all you know, that's all you deal with. But see, I have this thing. And it's crazy too, like how connected I am with astrology now, because I'm so aware, and I've always been so aware. Again, Capricorn rising, like I started out as an adult. And so even as a kid, right? I knew like, okay, certain shit is not. Even as a kid, I just knew like certain shit is not acceptable. Certain shit should not be happening, but it's happening. So let's try to figure out a way out of this. And so I dealt with a lot of childhood trauma. A lot. But again, when we talk about American values, when we talk about traditions, and even though I clearly was not growing up in a traditional household and there was a lot of dysfunction, when you talk about traditions, when you talk about values, whose values are we talking about? So since I'm not white, since I'm not in a white American family, and that's not my MO, and I'm living in the hood or I'm going to the school in the hood, this is all I know. And black people, we tell ourselves, we tell each other, we tell our peers all the time, oh, blood is thicker than water, and you never go against a family, and that's always going to be your mother, and you only get one mother. And we tell ourselves all of this shit. That is bullshit. That's bullshit. And I've always known that since I was a kid. I've always known that because when I think about a lot of the things that would be said to me, when I think about a lot of the things that would happen, that was done, I was like, no, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel like something worth holding on to. I can't even count on my hands how many times I tried to fucking run away, like, or how many times I've thought about it. Like, no, absolutely not. And so now when I think about shit in 2022, like I'm 29, just about to end my Saturn return in maybe about 6 months, right? Your Saturn return is from like 27 to 29, and that's when you go through like the most life-changing shit. Not to mention we had the pandemic, like a whole bunch of shit happened. whole lot of astrology transits. Then my north nodes were transiting, and like whole bunch of shit. So everything that's happened to me the last couple of years was always gonna happen. Right? It was always gonna happen because it was destined to happen. I was always destined to break free from my family. And at the age that it happened at. And throughout my life, I had seen so many things. And so, like, even now, as I'm speaking about the whole Saturn return thing, there's like a pre-Saturn return. Like, there's like a half Saturn return, then like a full Saturn return. Now that I'm thinking about it, the pre was when I was around 12. And yeah, that's when I got exposed for liking a boy. And I was about to run away with him to Long Island, Staten Island. Yeah, I remember, and that's when I knew officially, like, oh no, I'm done. I can't. I gotta. This ain't right. This ain't right. But I say all of that to say, like, over the last couple of years, I've not only grown up myself, but even the work that I had chose to do, where I'm doing a lot of psychology work with clients and helping people through their trauma. And I'm noticing that the one common denominator is childhood trauma. And childhood trauma is inevitable. It's happening to everyone. To everyone. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter who you are. Like, everyone has trauma, and it all stems from childhood. And people love to lead with their race or lead with their gender, especially black people. Y'all do this shit a lot, and it gets on my fucking nerves. Like, stop saying as a black woman. Bitch, don't nobody give a fuck. Because as a white woman, as a gay woman, as a trans woman, as whatever you want to insert into it, everybody has trauma. And if we spend a lot more time trying to heal and learn from each other's trauma and help heal each other, rather than trying to have a race Olympics. When I say race Olympics, I literally mean like running. Like, instead of us trying to have like oppression Olympics, I feel like we would be a lot better off. But no. And so I see a lot of themes that fucking happen every single day where people are ignoring their trauma, and trauma is inevitable. It all stems from the environment that you created or that was created for you when you were a child. And whatever themes and whatever lessons and whatever, that was started then. Nobody is born racist. Nobody is born homophobic. But guess what? If your parents are, if the environment you're in is like that, then that's what you're going to grow up to become. You just are. Just like if you were born into an ignorant, household, you're going to grow up and fucking be ignorant. You're going to grow up and be a fucking bigot. It is what the fuck it is. And so I don't like that, because see, what ends up happening is that racist, that homophobe, that person with this undealt with trauma, eventually you go through life and that manifests through your relationships, through your dating life, and this, that, and the third. And now at your grown ass age, now you coming to me, throwing me a bad, saying, Aubrey, can you help me out? Why am I like this? Or what's coming in my future? And da 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 da. And now we got to unpack said trauma that happened from childhood when we could have just made it better from the start. And see, that's where this podcast comes in. That's where my mindset is now, because I see so many people, we kind of touched on this earlier, but I see so many people that cheer and y'all campaign for bitches to be single mothers, and I will never fucking understand that. And wait till the end of you also understand why I'm so passionate about that, but I will never understand it. Like, right now, I know Amara La Negra was on Love and Hip Hop Miami last season, talking about how she wanted a baby, but she didn't know, because she didn't know if she was going to be with this boy. And then camera stopped filming. Show goes off. Months later, she not even with the man, and she got twins. Everybody cheering her the fuck on. And I'm like, why? Bitch, you are dumb. Yes, children are blessings, but that situation is not a blessing. Why is anybody having children, first of all, out of wedlock? We could go there. We could. But I'm not. Not necessarily saying listen, maybe I should say that for the one about marriages, and I'll save it for that. Okay? But it's less about wedlock and more about, what foundation do you have in place? What community do you have in place? Like, y'all just want to have kids just to have kids. And me, as somebody that's grown up into a toxic family, especially dealing with a toxic mother, who all of my life and to this day, I still cannot figure out why the fuck she hated me so goddamn bad. Just because you could procreate does not mean that y'all should. And that is the angle that I'm coming from, especially with this podcast and especially with this episode and especially now in life. It's like, just because you can procreate does not mean that you should. Just because you can have a baby does not mean you deserve to be a parent. A lot of trauma stems from childhood. And maybe because I'm a life worker, I'm a healer, astrologer, therapist, whatever you want to call me, maybe I just view shit differently, because those same children that's going through said trauma is going to grow up to one day become my client. And it all starts back with the environment you grew up in. And a lot of times, that environment is within a family environment. So let's talk about mines. The universe played it out in such a way where at this same exact time, my adopted cousin was coming back into the household, because there was even a thing with that where she was around for a while and then they sent her away because she was too problematic. And it's just like, oh, her energy met your energy and y'all would rather deal with your own than somebody else. Like, again, trash. The problem is y'all. The problem is y'all. Y'all go into a foster system. If you care, you care. But no, y'all didn't care. Y'all cared for a check. And we're not even talking about as a woman. No, we're talking about as a child. I remember being a fucking child that had not even reached double digits. And I'm being accused of fucking grown-ass men on the internet. And immediately in that moment, I knew. Yes, Spirit, this not gonna work. This not gonna work. I never wished or wanted a father. And I didn't need to, because I was too busy wishing for a fucking mother. Like, yes, your father may be physically dead, and we cannot change that. Your mother may be physically dead, and we cannot change that. But what happens when your mother is standing right there in front of your face, but is still given physically dead? What do we do about that then? Like, why do you hate me so much? Like, why? My whole entire family is trash, including the new family that I tried to create. In what fucking world do you create a fucking child and the mother of that child says, no, I'm gonna cut you off instead of your toxic family? It's like literally my whole life has been about Xing me out of the picture, showing me why I don't deserve a seat at the table, showing me why. Ooh. I ain't gonna do it. I ain't gonna do it. We're not gonna mess up my makeup. Not when we almost done.
And that is where we're going to wrap this thing on up. Now, I want to thank y'all so much for listening to Let's Start There. If you hated me for that opinion, don't worry, bitch. I got way more where that came from. So make sure you show some love for your new favorite podcast by leaving a 5-star bitch, a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify podcasts. New pod episodes drop every Monday and Wednesday, along with the video version released 24 hours after, with the full video version on Patreon immediately. So make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel for all things Sky Santana, and go ahead and subscribe to the Patreon so you can get those exclusive goodies and the full version and, the bonus content. And like I always say, fuck it up, ho. But I'll fuck you up, ho. Until next time, my love. Bye, babies. Keep my foot in your throat. Ain't no written to go. Keep my foot in your throat. Ain't no written to go.